anything in the wine world that is kind of accepted as conventional wisdom that you think is a bit silly?
Yes, actually, that's actually quite a good question. And you wouldn't even prep it. So, biodynamic wine is the idea, and there's a part of it which makes sense, is the idea that you are growing you're working in harmony with nature, which makes perfect sense. But you will do things, for example, like you will literally put cow horns in the soil to the idea of rejuvenate your soil. And actually, I'll always remember in France, I went to Champagne once, and it's the funniest thing I've heard in my life, which is basically this, I forget his name, this French man who owns this wonderful champagne vineyard, and he was talking about the energy towards the grapes. And so this man, basically, the best way to describe it is he made love to these grapes for 5 minutes. He was talking so poetically to them, so, like, oh, my sweet, my little mon petit bijou, you're beautiful, your grapes are so beautiful. And he said, and he asked us to taste these grapes before he had basically made love to these grapes and then taste them afterwards. And he was like, you see, it is sweeter, juicier, flavour, And of course, this is complete horseshit. I mean, the idea, because then also, I'm always be interested, once if you spend your entire time swearing at the grapes and calling them worthless, they'll lose their energy. There is an element which I believe is crap. I mean, the biodynamic is accepted in some parts of the wine industry, but not all. So I would say that's one of the. It's still contentious, but I would say that's. And actually, one of the things we've not spoken about actually is the whole screw cap and cork ratio. Because you and I have opinions on this, and they might even differ. I don't know.
Well, let's find out.
Yeah.
What's your stance?
Well, so I'm just generally of the opinion. So it is a scientific fact that a screw cap will preserve your wine for longer. However, and so I think it's highly appropriate for screw caps to be for fresh aromatic white wines, rosés, and other such things. However, I would say that if I'm wanking away £100, not that I do, because I should also have a belief that you should never spend a certain amount of money on wine, which we'll talk about in a minute. I'm a firm believer that if I'm spending a load of money on a Bordeaux, although Bordeaux's never have screw caps, the idea...
Not yet.
Actually, I say that. Actually, Clavet. Is it Clavet?
You're the guy that has a better French pronunciation.
No, I know, but it's like a Bordeaux that you get in a corner shop. It's called it's a well-known maker with an eagle on it. They do American like Calvert. Anyway,
I think I know. Yeah.
Yeah, they actually do a Bordeaux with a screw cap. Outrageous. But the idea that you should, if I'm spending a large amount of money on a Australian, whatever, and it comes without a cork, I do feel somewhat cheated. However, I would say that. They are catching up now with the idea of producing screw caps that look quite prestigious. They look good. Like I'd be okay. I would be okay spending £30-40 just on something with a screw cap.
Like inflation, it's
completely. Yeah.
I do agree with you that there is a huge importance that often gets not looked at properly about the psychological element of cocktails, wine, and the enjoyment about it.
Hugely, yeah.
So if I'm taken to someone's vineyard and I'm there in the country where it's produced, in the vineyard it's produced, the winemaker is telling me about his passion and his story and what he does to the grapes.
Yeah.
And I learnt about it from a technical perspective. I'm going to enjoy that wine a hell of a lot more than if I open a bottle quickly on a random Tuesday evening in the UK.
Yeah.
And I think that with so many things, the story and the psychology, actually, even though it isn't like a chemical thing in the wine, there are chemicals that are going on in the brain that can dictate how much you enjoy the wine.
Well, it's funny because people often actually shit over it as like a bad thing, as in presentation. But actually, I think it's part of the magic. Frankly, if something comes at me in a nice glass, I always remember a meal I had at a place called the Otelon in outside Reading, actually, where I used to live there briefly. It was a Michelin-star restaurant, and the glasses they served me my Gewürztraminer in were ridiculous. I mean, they were ridiculous. They were bowls that you could fit a fucking fish in, and they were so big that by the time they filled, they honestly could fill a third of a bottle up. So that in fact they did. They filled a third of the bottle up of each, me, my mum, and my brother, and so the bottle was finished by then, and it's absurd. I mean, the whole thing was absurd. And by the time you get drink half, it's warm, and and appearance matters, and buying something from a nice bottle matters, and something that doesn't feel cheap matters, and a cocktail glass that's cold, that's cold, and that's has got, you take out, it's got that wonderful frosting on it and something like that. It really matters to presentation, and I will spend more money on something that looks better. I don't think there's anything wrong with omitting stuff like that.
Well, I think it's just something that human beings do.
Yeah,
and it's
completely.
like to deny that. It's like, come on, man.
Deny our humanity, sort of thing.
Yeah.